Oh, I want to talk anarchy. I want to talk shamanism, primitivism, and some of these different ideas. I keep mentioning the book The Cosmic Serpent by Jeremy Narby, and I told you that I spoke to Jeremy Narby via Facebook. He's an anthropologist and author, and I'm going to read the back of this book to you because I keep talking about it and I haven't really dipped into it yet. I recommend it to you, but I'm going to read just the back here. The Cosmic Serpent is a personal adventure, a fascinating study of anthropology and ethnopharmacology, and a revolutionary look at how intelligence and consciousness may come into being. In a first-person narrative of scientific discovery that opens new perspectives on biology, anthropology, and the limits of rationalism, Jeremy Narby reveals how startlingly different the world around us appears when we open our minds to it. So, as I've outlined before, his book doesn't really deal with anarchy at all, but it relates to shamanism and to basically our awareness of the world, and that is one interest of mine. Then that brought me to this other book, which came out in the 80s, Shaman's Path, which is a collection of essays from PhD anthropologists from all around the world and on different aspects. And the first one comes from Michael Harner, and his work on shamanism is some of the best out there and most well known. And his essay, What is a Shaman? He outlines how shamanism is the true anarchy. He doesn't say it in those words, but I gleaned it from there and saw it, what he was saying. He was basically saying that shamanism was our original natural traditional way to interpret the world, whether that meant belief in God or belief in oneself as a God. It meant all kinds of different things to different people, and there was no centralized authority to dictate whether your experience was valid or not. There was nobody there to tell you, you're crazy. Stop believing that you can read other people's minds. You're crazy. Stop believing that you can create reality with your minds. You're crazy. Don't believe in gods in the sky. Whatever it is you think, that should be up to you, right? But after a while, authorities came, religious and state authorities, who decided that they could dictate who was holding the keys, right? Because if you have a bunch of people out there telling you that they have their own spiritual revelation and they have no need for your God or for your churches or for your traditions or your rituals, well, then they are then a danger and a threat to your ruling class. And if you know that the religious and state institutions were bounded together for quite some time, and some would argue still are, although the religious institutions are somewhat separate, or at least have the appearance of being separate, they still exert quite a bit of power to a particular audience of the population, a particular portion of the population. So, understanding that what I believe, basically, whether you accept the term shamanism or not, that in the past there have been cultures that each of us come from, our ancestry, whether you're Caucasian, whether you're European, whether you're Australian, whether you're African American, or you're a mutt like me, come from all over the world. We all come and descend from cultures in different parts of the world that I believe lived more harmoniously, and that history shows have lived more harmoniously at different points in our history. And religion often came along to save the savages, the uncivil people who would live with their own belief systems and their own gods and their own methods of trade. And of course, there were disputes and things like that that still existed among these tribes and these communities. But for the most part, people were still able to exist and to get along. Now, after a period of time, though, rational thinking took over, and these people were seen to be savages and to be undesirable. And so their rituals, their beliefs were to be eradicated. And this has happened for thousands and thousands of years. It's continuing to take place right now here in America. The United States government is still betraying their treaties to the Native Americans, to my people, to your people. Indigenous people right now are fighting and being slaughtered in Haiti and Brazil, in several places in Brazil and all over South America, where they're fighting dams, or they're fighting hydroelectric dams, and they're trying to keep countries out from digging up their gold. There's a lot of indigenous native struggles that continue to this day, and that I keep my eye on. And what this points to me out is that we have turned our back on our nature and our history and where we've come from. Not all of us as individuals, but I would say overall as a world, the culture that we're fed is progress, keep moving forward, right? And I don't believe that these things are just some product of the market, that we're evolving forward and we're getting rid of these less desirable savage ways. But possibly for some of you, they may be. Some of you may be thinking, what is he talking about? I don't want to move backwards. I don't really see it as going backwards, but again, these are my interests, so I'm not trying to force some anarcho-primitivist stance on everyone as a whole, as a collective. What I'm saying, though, is I believe if we could return to our roots, so to speak, and get back to nature and understand ourselves again. As I continue to say, get to understand yourself and your history and where you come from, and where we all come from is this planet. We could have a deeper understanding, a deeper respect for our place in nature, our place in this universe, and instead of trying to conquer everything that we come across and conquer nature and, you know, force ourselves on it, we could work together in a balance. And that's sort of my take on it that I've gathered from these different sources, and that's really what me and JG Vibes are going to be putting into our book, The Conscious Resistance,